It's a really a great pleasure for me to be in FMS and give my first TEDx talk. And I think it's a dream for everybody who is into a public life or to given an opportunity for making a presentation in TED Talk. So thank you very much FMS for giving me this opportunity. The topic of today's TED Talk is Let's Rise. Now I want to know from the audience, how many of you don't want to rise? How many of you don't want to rise? Can you raise your hand? No. So it's very simple that I think everybody, each one of you sitting over here, want to rise in their life. We want to be better than other people, and it's very, very natural that all of us want to perform better than others. And in the digital world today, in the world where we are living today, there is no dearth of formula also. There are thousands of TED Talks itself which are available on YouTube. There are so many quotations, there are so many advices. People will tell you a lot of formulas, for example, follow your passion. Or let us say, never give up, discover yourself. All those formulas are available. Then you have got life stories of so many people which are available on net, how other people have succeeded in their life, and how you can also become successful. So many of us try that, and ultimately what happens that we don't succeed. What actually makes a difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person is something which is very difficult to define. Why? Because it is very, very personal. Why we fail? For every successful person, there are hundreds of people who fail. For every successful writer, there are hundreds of writers who are failing. You may be knowing that there are a million books which are published in a year, and only a couple of them become bestsellers. Nevertheless, you hear only the stories of the people who succeed in their life, but you don't hear the stories of the people who fail in their life. And that is the reason, as Ansu has said, that you get an illusion that the moment you are going to be in the public platform or doing in a creative field, you are going to be extremely successful. Maybe somebody has Bhagwan, he has mentioned in the Bhagwan, Amitabh Bachchan has written a book, sitting in the cafeteria, sitting on his, just typing, and his friend has given for publishing. And thereafter, this book becomes such a big seller that he becomes so rich. And this hardly happens in the real life, because the people who are real authors, they know how difficult it is first to write a book, then to get it published, and thereafter to market and how to get success. So let us talk about how we can succeed. I am also not going to give any formula for that. And I have great admiration for J. Krishnamurti, one of the greatest philosophers and an original thinker of India, who has once said, "Truth is a pathless land." And this is a very wonderful quote which I like, that you cannot follow anybody's to reach to the truth. It is everybody has to discover his own truth, and everybody has to discover his own path for success. Nevertheless, we can give you some clues, something which I have experienced in my life, and maybe that can help you in doing better. So first of all, why we don't succeed? In order to know that, I want to tell you something about a terminology which I read in a book called, this is a book, that How to Think Clearly. And in this book, he has given something called swimmer body illusion. What is swimmer body illusion? We normally find that the swimmers have the best body in the world, and their bodies are perfect. And so what we do is that many people advise, let us go swimming. And we go for swimming, and we do a lot of swimming, practice every day, and we expect that our bodies are going to be like that. But after doing for months together, we don't get a body like a swimmer. So a study was conducted, and it was found that the people do not become top swimmer because they don't get the body because they are doing a lot of swimming, but because they had particular shape of body, genetically designed shape of body, that's why they become the top swimmer. But we get confused. And there are many manifestations of this. And this is what you should know, is that we confuse the cause with the effect. It is the great body design which has made them the best swimmer. Just like for becoming a basketball player, you have to be a tall person. Just like you have to get into an FMS or IM, you have to have a high IQ score. In the same way, for certain qualities are required if you want to become a top, swimmer. But people confuse otherwise. So you see a person who is advertising using some cosmetic become very beautiful, and you think that you'll use the cosmetic and you'll become beautiful. That never happens. Actually, that person has been selected because she was already beautiful, she was already fair, and that is why the cosmetic company has selected. But what we think that because she is using cosmetic, she has become beautiful, and that is where the problem lies. And so what happens that we try to follow them, and ultimately what happens that when we use that cosmetic, we don't get beautiful. We follow those paths of the successful people and we don't succeed because we are all different. And this is a quote I think which you must have seen, that for a fair selection of everybody, they have to take the same exam, that is climb the tree. And you can naturally see that everybody cannot succeed in this examination because everybody has a different ability. So somebody has become a comedian, somebody has become a film star, somebody has become a great writer. We just follow and we don't succeed because we are not meant for that. Now Gandhi, for example, became a great politician, and he became a great statesman because he had some inherent qualities. In the same way, Sachin Tendulkar also was great because he has some inherent quality which may not be able to quantify, but he had those qualities. Had he been in politics, or as he is already in politics, he is the third, he's basically an unsuccessful politician. In the same way, Gandhi would have been a third-rated cricketer. In the same way, you cannot become successful, but that's what we do. We get inspired by somebody, we want to follow them, and ultimately when we follow them, we don't succeed. So, like Dhirubhai Ambani was only 10th pass and he became the greatest, he created the greatest industry because he had some quality which is very inherent. Now, how to do that, how to get that quality and how to succeed in life, I am going to give you a 4-step formula that which will perhaps help you. The first step is experiment. Because there are so many qualities which are inherent in us. There are people who are working in the corporate and they don't know that they can be a comedian, or a person who is working in the government, they don't know that they can be a writer. We always think that, we are meant for this. Why we are meant for this? Because we have never tried something else. So unless we experiment, we will not know what are our different qualities, and we can have 1,000 qualities which are hidden within us and we are not able to discover those treasures. So experiment is very, very important. And these experiments, when we are a child, we do a lot of experiment, we try everything. We want to become a cricketer, we want to become a film star, we want to become everything. But the way we grow and the moment we are in the colleges and all that, we start losing those things because we have been conditioned to think, now you prepare for IIT, you prepare for medical, you go there, then you do IIT, you go to IIM, and then you get a job, and thereafter you just keep on following until you are finished. So we have to understand that this experiment is very, very important. Now this experiment does not necessarily come from outside. Experiment basically means that facing the same situation in a different manner. For example, Mahatma Gandhi, as you know, he was a very poor advocate. Basically, he was a very unsuccessful advocate, and so when he got an assignment in South Africa, he happily went there. And he was a poor advocate till he was thrown out of this railway compartment, which I think everybody is aware of. And thereafter, he did an experiment. Instead of taking the things lying down, he stood up and he fought against the British regime, and then gradually, he got success and he became established as a politician. So he experimented with the truth, and he was so experimentative throughout his life. Till his deathbed, he was experimenting, and from the experiments only he was discovering himself. Now, I did the same experiment. I was in IRS, I was in the Indian Revenue Service, and I was a deputy commissioner here, cargo. We are having a wonderful life. But then there was some urge in me because I love studies and I wanted to read and write. And so I took a study leave and went to IIITM Gwalior. And there, I have to write a paper. And trust me that I never thought that I can be a writer. I have not written even a half-page article anywhere in any college magazine. But there, by force, you have to write a research paper. And when I have to write a research paper, then I found that I can write really well. And within 2 years, I got 7 papers published, which is a great achievement. And then I was so much hooked to writing that I thought that I am going to be a writer. And so once I submitted my PhD thesis, thereafter what I did that I wrote a book immediately within 2-3 months. The title of the book was Change Your Nature to Change Your Life. And then I sent to a dozen publishers, and I thought that what will happen if everybody select me, how I'm going to justify, because every publisher says that you should not send it to more than one. But what happens that everybody rejected my book. And thereafter, I was, you can understand that it was a great depressing moment for me. But nevertheless, I have understood that perhaps I am not on the, I can write well, but perhaps I do not have the skill. So I have gone to the next step, that is skill enhancement. So what happens that after the books were rejected, it was a very depressing moment, but nevertheless I thought that publishers are wise people, they perhaps know what is to be published. Maybe I'm not writing that well. And therefore what happens that I have started a website, that scienceofsoul.com, where I was publishing my articles. Then I started writing on designarticles.com, and I published over 500 articles. I used to be an IRS officer on the weekdays and a writer on the weekends, and I used to publish 2 articles every week. And so I developed that skill, and it was only in 2011 that I published my next book. I wrote my next book, which was finally published in 2013. And so it took me almost 8 years after that when my first book was published. So the skill development is very important, because unless you develop your skills, and what we do is we immediately jump into the work. The important thing is that we have to hone up our skill, and as Lincoln has said, that you should spend 4 hours for sharpening the axe if you have 6 hours to chop a tree, because the time we spend in that is skill development is going to reduce the time which we are going to take in the final goal. So you have to keep practicing, and I kept practicing for 8 years before my first book was published. And finally this book was released in Delhi itself, and thereafter I have published 4 books in 4 years. And I am writing, as you know, on Quora, and I've written more than 2,500 articles on Quora. I write almost so much of material that I can publish virtually 1 book every day. I write almost 2,000 words every day in addition to these books. Now the important thing is that people will say that, how can you keep on doing it? You must have heard the book called Outliner by Malcolm Gladwell, who says that to have an international level of expertise, international level of skills, you should have 10,000 hours of practice. People burn out. If you're doing something which you don't like, you are like this guy who is trying to lift a very strong weight, and this is stone, and this is, you can very well see that it is going to tire him, and this guy is going to burn out. And this is what happens to most of us. When we are working in any profession, we are just working to earn our money. We hate the work, we hate our bosses, we hate our job, and still we are doing it because we think that we'll earn the money and that will make our life better. And that really going to burn out. The fact is that this guy was working against the nature and against the gravity, and if you use the power of the air, for example, wind air, then you can flow like this boat by using the sail, because the sail is taking the power of the air. In the same way, you can do in skiing, what you are doing here is that you are taking the advantage of the gravity. So gravity, which was a problem in the first slide you have seen, this is an advantage here because it is helping you to reach your goal. So important thing is that when you are doing something which you love to do, then even after working 10 hours, 12 hours, you don't get tired. This is very, very important. When you are doing something which is against your will, then you get tired within no time. But if you are doing something which you love to do, like I am a person who perhaps study or write maybe 8 hours, 10 hours in a day, which is perhaps much more than anybody can think of, and people may be thinking that I get tired. But it's the fact that I get charged by writing something, because this gives me pleasure. And that is an identification that when you are doing something which you love to do, it is going to give you joy, and this joy is going to last you for a long period. I have been writing into at least 12, 13 years, and I don't feel tired. I want to write more and more. And this is a very important thing. And finally, it comes to the performance. As you know that ultimately, even if you are enjoying the work, even if you develop the skill, but finally the most important thing is that whether you are appreciated. Because we always feel that we are right. We always feel that what we are doing is fantastic job. But ultimately we should not be judge of ourselves. Ultimately let the other people judge yourself. If I am a writer, let other people say that you are a good writer. If I am a politician, let other people vote for me. If I don't get a vote, if nobody appreciate me, then that means I am not actually delivering the things. So if you are not able to perform, even though you are liking, then you come to the next stage, and that is after performance, you go back to the experiment. That means if you are not able to perform, then what you have to do is that you have to experiment again, find how you can change what you are doing, or maybe you can change your profession itself, and therefore you start the experimental process again, and this will take you to the entire cycle once again. So it's not a linear thing. It's basically something which is a a cyclic thing, and you continuously into the virtuous cycle, and one thing leads to other, and you keep on improving yourself. So you can see that what beautiful thing is, if you're experimenting in life, if your skill is enhanced, if you're having joy in your life, and if you're performing well, I think you are living an ideal life. This is all we require in our life, isn't it? And therefore, this is the thing which I try to cover, that ultimately life is about experiment and skill enhancement, and ultimately this will give you joy and you will perform well. So never neglect that other people are not appreciating. This is all very important, and if you are into all this mode in this virtuous cycle, then definitely you are going to succeed in your life, and you are going to enjoy your life also. This is very important. Success and happiness comes together, and this is the life we all want to have. Thank you very much.